This is Jimmy from Gears, and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious Podcast.
And we're recording. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I don't know what that was. My internet's or somebody's internet's been crapping out. So,
Well, it's got to be yours.
I'm going to blame anybody. Can we blame the guest?
No, no, we can't. So you're up in you're in Lexington, Kentucky. What's the metal scene like there?
Yeah, man. There's a couple cool spots that I like to go to here. As far as metal, I mean, you get some of the, more well-known acts that come through, and then you like some of the smaller acts. It seems like Lexington, because it's so close to Cincinnati and Louisville, and Indianapolis is only like 3.5 hours. So, tour routing, it just really kind of depends on what stops they want to make, or, radius and proximity clauses, which, we all know that those are just going up and up and up these days. So it's, especially if you're doing any kind of the festivals, it's like, there's some tough radius on there that you have to deal with. But I mean, the local bands, I wish I could say, I kind of moved to Lexington, Kentucky to kind of be more of a recluse. And, I don't really get out too much. Well, I mean, it's like when you're, a touring musician for years and years and years, in different bands of all different sizes, when you're on the road as much as I was at one time, and probably will be again, it's just that you're always on, man. You're always on. It's like, I try to, and I really like emphasize this point to my guys. It's like, just always, try to be positive. I know it's hard, we got, wives and kids at home, and, stuff happening, and, those relationships get strained a little bit, but it's like, that split second that you might be able to spend with someone who was cool enough to come out to our show, that like, that's in the moment for them. And here so many times, people are just like, they'll bring up somebody and they're like, oh, that guy was an asshole to me. Well, you don't know. Maybe you just got off a really tough phone call with his wife and just wasn't ready to talk to you for that 30 seconds or 10 seconds. I mean, I kind of remember that, musicians, sacrifice on the road as far as being away from their family and stuff. And there is trials and tribulations that happen, or, maybe, somebody's arguing with the guitar player or the singer, and they're just not in a cool mood. So I always, try to keep, all of our guys, just in that, you can always tell when someone's like starting to get a little stressed out. And, my thing is, I just go, I'm like, dude, listen to this. Like, I know everything's going wrong for you right now. You feel like it is, but guess what? You get to play a rock show tonight. Not everybody can say that.
Right.
So it's like that kind of will, get people to be like, okay, even if it's just for that, 40, 30, 45 hour minute set, it kind of gets people kind of like refocused and reset. So.
I mean, so many people spend their lives dreaming of that.
Yeah, of course.
Right. And then you get bogged down in the tour aspects of it and the separation part of it, and then all of a sudden you're on stage and that all goes away.
Yeah, and that's what you do it for. It's like, I didn't start playing drums when I was like 9 years old, because I wanted to, deal with blown transmissions, booking agents, managers, social media, even like interviews. Although this is, some of them are really fun. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not what you get into it to like play your instrument in front of people and have that connection with them. Right. So it's like, if you're going to be miserable during that 30, 45 minutes, hour, whatever you're getting on stage,
why are you doing
it? None of the other shit's I'm sorry. Stuff is.
No, okay. You can swear. This is a swear-friendly podcast.
So no, it kind of like makes all the other shit not worth it. You know what I mean? So, why deal with the financial burden and like, the delays and, God forbid this fucking COVID thing, it's like, why deal with all that if you're just going to be cranky when you get to play?
Right, what's the point even?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's funny when I turned on the video, because we're a metal podcast,
sure.
predominantly.
Mm-hmm.
I turned on the video. I'm like, I think they got the publicist screwed up here. I'm not sure. But then the reggaeton beat kicks in and then the metal kicks in. I was like, holy shit. It's not something I've ever really heard put together in any way that sounded even half decent. But you guys make it sound natural. So like, how did that come about? How did that fusion of those sounds come together?
Man, it's something like, Trip and I are the only ones that have been in the band since the very beginning. So, we've gone through member changes and all that stuff, but we've always kind of wanted to bring the Miami culture and like the Latin, vibe, kind of into the genre, but like we didn't want to do it in the same way that Puya did it. We didn't want to do it the same way that El Nino did it. We wanted to do it the way that Gears could do it. So even though we tried to have conversations about it, it was really kind of we thought it was going to be like a lost cause, because Trent and I used to talk about this, all the time, doing a song like this, not necessarily, rebranding the band and like trying to become a niche band or anything like that, but just kind of show another side of the band and kind of give it some depth. It's like, if you go through our catalog, it's like, I think we can do pretty good hard rock songs. I think we could do pretty good heavy songs, but this for us was really a game changer. And when we started working with Chris Dawson and Jimmy Beatty, and they kind of, it was weird because Dawson was like, we were talking about like, even before we started pre-pro, and we were talking about working together, he's just like, man, he's just like, Miami's just like such a cool city. You guys are like cool guys. You look cool. You got great personalities. Like, the first thing I want to do with you guys is kind of see what we can capture. And like Trip and I like looked at each other, it was like, fuck yeah, because that's what we've been kind of, wanting to do, and trying to do something authentically and with a genuine interest, not kind of, like I said, I love El Nino, I love Poya. We didn't want to rip that side, we wanted to do it our own, because it's like, it's so hard to come up with something. And the feedback, the most important, like the feedback that connects most with me is when people first heard the song, it's like, wow, this is really refreshing. And that came from a lot of people, from people that have known about the band since we started, new people, press, even our radio guys, they were really, that refreshing part means, okay, we're onto something. We did it in a way that was cool.
Right.
Well, to be honest, this is the first time I'd even ever heard of the band. So, like, the first thing I do when I'm prepping for an interview is I got to listen to the song. So I turn it on. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like I said, I thought it was a mistake at first. So, and you mentioned that your producer was like really kind of like open about you guys.
Yeah.
Was it kind of a refreshing change to have a producer like that, where they really just want to capture you instead of trying to fit you into some cookie cutter kind of sound that they do?
In Gears, we've been super fortunate to work with not only, in my opinion, a couple of the best producers out there, but also like super close friends. We worked with Corey Lowry for quite a while.
Wow.
And he did a ton of stuff with us. Like, he did the first record, he did the second record. And then from then we kind of moved on to doing batches of songs and releasing some singles with videos, some singles with lyric videos, some things that's, just, street singles, whatever you want to call it. So it wasn't really as much of like a change in that way, because Corey was very much that way. It's like one of my oldest friends in life. So I always felt like I was really safe in his hands and stuff like that. So I don't feel like we really got forced into anything as far as that. But when we started working with Chris, with Dawson and Jimmy, it was just kind of like a new approach. I feel like had we not had the groundwork, everything that we did with Corey up until that point, and then we did a tour with Seasons After, which both the guys were in that band. That tour was probably one of the most catastrophic tours I've ever been on, between all the bands having transportation problems and, all this stuff happening. And I believe it ended up being Seasons After's last tour. But that we really kind of like really got tight during that time, because I mean, it's like, all right, bro, like, you guys gotta, spend $500 on parts for your bus. Our bus is good. Come hang with us. Or like, hey, all right, I got the hotel rooms tonight, dude. Get me back when you can, if you can, that kind of thing. And there was a lot of camaraderie built up on that tour.
Nice.
With those guys and Bridge to Grace. And so ever since then, I just, we instantly clicked with those guys. So I knew eventually, we would do something together. I didn't know what to what end that was going to be, what, what magnitude it was going to go. But I mean, I feel like it was something that we needed, because when you work with the same producer, Corey and I and Trip, and the guys that were involved, we just kind of got into not a rut, I don't want to say, but you get into a workflow that's comfortable. And maybe that isn't the best for stimulating new creativity. It's like, okay, so we kind of know how to do things and we could bang through it with each other, but it wouldn't be, just getting something new was a little stimulating. It was exciting,
Stepping out of your comfort zone to make some magic happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is very cool. Now, Miami is like one of my favorite cities. I love that. Every time I go there, I'm like, I just feel like I'm in a totally different world. Like I've been to Cuba multiple times, and whenever I go like to Miami, I feel like I'm in a like more civilized Cuba. Yeah,
it really is.
I love it.
It really is. It's
because everywhere you go,
rich in that culture, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of music playing everywhere, and there's food, and there's like, people are happy. It's just a totally different vibe, from wherever else I've gone. And the first, like with the song, with the single, you get that feeling right away. Like you feel like you're in Miami. And then the other thing that I've always found strange about Miami, and maybe you can explain this to me, is South Florida has a huge history with metal. And those two things don't seem to go hand in hand to me, but they really do. Why? Why do they go together so well?
Man, I think it has a lot to do with like South Florida, like people from South Florida, people that live in South Florida. I just think there's like a certain attitude, a certain panache to it. You know what I mean? I think there's like almost it's almost like an elegant chaos to it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so pretty there. It's so, I don't know that I can explain it, because I didn't live there all my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that, when I was growing up on the East Coast and I got to the age where, going on vacation, I mean, we went to Miami every year. You know what I mean? I lived in Miami when I was like really young. So it was like Miami always kind of felt like a weird connection to me, even though, it's like I didn't spend my whole life there, but I always felt at home there.
Yeah.
When we did the first record back in 2014, we were down there for like 2.5 months, and we were just we got a house and kind of just built like a little makeshift studio, which is a lot easier these days than, the old behind the musics where they were like rolling in consoles and knocking down walls. It's like, so I don't want to misrepresent what we did. So we brought this MacBook in. Okay. Yeah. We have this little mixer, so, but it was really cool to be there all together. I think that was like, really, the members at that time, I think we connected, for a short bit, but Trip and I instantly, locked in like that. And I knew that I wanted to keep making music with this guy, no matter what, no matter who else is involved. And like, that dude's my brother. So when we would go out, it's like the bands were so like, I feel like they were just really talented, and they approached the music in a different way rhythmically. You know what I mean? I feel like even though it's heavy music, I just felt like there was a little more bounce to it. I mean, like, think of bands that came out of there, think about Nonpoint. I mean, they are groove machines, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and like all those bands that come out of there, I just feel like there's a lot more pocket to it. It kind of bounces a little bit more. And I think that's directly related to the culture that you're around, because I mean, if you go to South Beach, you walk into any dance club, I mean, it's all just really like sexy mid-tempo kind of stuff. And,
Right.
I mean, of course you can go to like the rave places, where it's like, a little bit more upbeat and stuff like that. But I mean, you just walk in and I mean, if you're like, for example, you're walking down Washington Boulevard, you go in one bar, and it's like kind of like laid back, like, like the beginning of Don't Want to Say Goodbye. It's got the slow guitar feel, and it's just really like emotionally invoking, I should say. And then like you go, 2 blocks down and you're in a club that's got like the bachata, so I just feel like there's just, when you're exposed to so many different musical elements, I think that whether you think about it or not, it gets kind of ingrained in the back of your mind. And when you approach your instrument or you approach your writing, melody, whatever, I think it just kind of takes over for you.
Yeah, like the music's always in the air there. You know what I mean? Like, I remember after 70,000 Tons of Metal 2011, I was lucky enough to go and have dinner with Chuck Billy, and we're sitting on the patio having dinner, and there's like music coming from every direction, and it was something we all clocked. Everyone at the table was just like, "This is awesome." Like there's just a vibe all over
There's a
the
lot.
place.
I mean, there's a few cities like that, right? It's like being equivalent to being in New Orleans or Chicago or something, right? Because it kind of just seeps out the pores.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. Like, I mean, especially places like, that have that kind of central location, Memphis with Beale Street, New Orleans with, what do you call it?
Jazz.
Help me out.
French
with
Quarter.
Jazz and the French Quarter. Yeah. And, Miami with the South Beach thing, but also Miami, kind of like in, the city part of it, there was like a bunch of cool little venues and clubs downtown, like right by the arenas.
Right.
More so than other places. It's like Los Angeles. I lived there for a long time, and they had a very cool, scene, for the most part, but it's so much transplants. Like everybody's from everywhere else. It's a huge melting pot, but I don't think there's really a dominant culture other than like the Sunset Strip culture, if you want to call that culture.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's kind of like,
I think
everybody supports each other, but it's not everybody, kind of supports the scene and everything, but you have so many different elements because everybody, not a whole lot of people that were in Hollywood at the time that I was, at least, were really from there, homegrown there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the single. So Don't Want to Say Goodbye. That's the one that we've been talking about here on the show, but you got a new one coming out, I think tomorrow, right? Good Enough?
That comes out Friday. So August 5th.
Oh, wow.
So
August 5th. I don't even know what day I'm on today. So sorry about that.
Dude, me neither. I woke up today kind of like discombobulated, like, thank God for Google Calendar, because I would have not even been on here, dude, because I thought today was Thursday all day. I'm like getting my trash day is Thursday. I'm like getting all my stuff ready to go to push out, And
Anyway, how excited are you to have the new single drop?
Man, we are very excited. This was always kind of in our head the most impactful song, I think. Just a quick note about Don't Want to Say Goodbye is we just released that because we wanted to. We didn't expect to get any attention from it. We didn't expect to get any response from it. Nobody really, thought it was a single per se. So, we didn't really do a heavy push at radio, but we got a response out of it. The idea was to we haven't released anything in a while. So we're like, okay, well, let's do this release for us, give it a short timetable. It's came out July 1st and we're releasing on August 5th. So it's like, give it a short timetable, see what it does, see if we can get some new people interested in the band, or at least give the people that are into the band and know about the band already, the fans now, give them a cool little taste of the other side of Gears before we come strong with Good Enough. This is the one that is really going to get a hard push to radio. It's really going to go, a lot of marketing dollars behind it. We're really going to be pushing for as much exposure on this one as possible. So in that sense, we're very excited, especially if it can build on, what Don't Want to Say Goodbye has done as far as, the exposure. If we can build on that, then that will be a super thing.
And that's kind of like the same mentality that the whole record industry is going in, right? So you're doing the single every 6 weeks now, as opposed to doing something full length or bigger, right?
Yeah. And we've been doing that for quite a while. I mean, we've basically been doing that since 2016. And, we had, a consultant that we were working with, and, it's just like, how do you, as a DIY band, as an independent band, how do you kind of like break the cycle of, you spend, 10, 15, 20, 30, $40,000 on a record, release one single and drop it. And, so, that was kind of when we were noticing that we weren't getting the results that we would have liked to have. So that's when we kind of started to try and concentrate on releasing more often. And, not that we invented it, obviously, but right. It just seems to really work well for bands that have to kind of keep their thumb on the checkbook and kind of like have to watch the bottom line. We don't have the big, major label machine behind us in this project. So, every dollar that we spend is coming from, out of our pockets, from, and we really have to make sure that we're being cost effective in every way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Chris?
And this goes back to what you were talking about earlier. You didn't start playing drums when you were 8 to like watch every dollar and become an accountant and deal with radio promo and all this stuff. But there's something I really, really respect about the DIY approach, because everything you learn is from the school of hard knocks, or someone helps you and then you listen or you don't listen. And then you say to yourself, shit, we shouldn't have listened, or shit, we should have listened.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is a learning process all the way through. What do you think the most important lesson you've learned in terms of the music business has been up to this point?
Well, I try to work with a lot of other development bands in, my other business. And so my big thing is I tell them, the industry is changing every day. And I'm like, we got to stay up on it. I'm even guilty of not, with the social media stuff, just because I don't like social media. I don't. I love the ability to connect and have that direct way to communicate with the people that we want to. But it's just like, I just feel like, it's like if you open that up first thing in the morning, man, like you're going to end up in a bad mood. I try to wake up without the Facebook or the Twitter, Instagram, because there's just so much conflicting, opinions people feel very strongly about. And, other people just don't respect that anymore. And it's like, I don't care if you think the exact opposite of me, like we can still be friends. Sure. You know what I mean? As long as we treat each other with the respect. But so I tell bands a lot of times that, look for, some kind of guidance. Look, I can't tell you how to get there or what to do, but I can tell you what not to do based on my own beats. You know what I mean? Like here's where I screwed up. Unfortunately, in a lot of situations, it's much like a kid. When you have a young kid, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove. What do? They touch the stove. Ow. So I feel like if you can get people to really listen and understand, the pitfalls to kind of avoid, then it's a good thing. But otherwise, I just think everybody has to go out and make mistakes. Like you got to make mistakes. Hopefully you guys, hopefully the people that are getting into this industry, are getting in early enough to where they can make all the mistakes they want until they're 30 and have it figured out and build a strong career from 30 on. You know what I mean? There's a media guy that I watch all the time, Gary Vaynerchuk. And I saw a video that I constantly send to people, especially young bands. It's like, dude, like, the kid asks, what would you suggest anybody, my age to do? And he's a young kid. He said, from 22 to 30, go fuck it up. now you don't, at this point, most people don't have families, they don't have bills, they don't have to go make all the mistakes you can so that you can set yourself up for a better life later.
Right. That makes sense.
I really like that advice, and I did follow that advice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm slightly older than 30, but I'm still fucking it up, man. I'm going to keep making all the mistakes.
So I hate to do this, Jimmy, but we are almost out of time.
Okay.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I really do enjoy
You made a new
stuff.
fan today, so thank you, man.
Thank you so much, man. I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely. I'm sorry about the internet connection. I don't know what's going on today, but thanks for hanging.
Cool.
It's all good, brother. Hey, man. See ya.
Be well, my friend.
Make sure you stay in touch with us, eh? Like if singles get released or whatever, make sure we're on your list.
For sure. All right. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
So
Right on.
We could take care of some of the social media
My
sharing.
man. That's dude, that's
All right.
That's the biggest thing, man. That's the biggest thing. Just getting people involved in the journey that are willing to champion it. And, as that grows, you got to make people look,
Absolutely.
All right.
Take
Have a
care,
great
my
day, dude.
See ya.
Cheers.
Later. Bye.
Cheers.